Hi everyone, welcome to the 10th video of module 2, and here I'm going to teach you the concept of function in programming. So to start with, we'll be talking about what is the need of the functions in programming, and I'm sure by the end of this program you will be appreciating that you have learned this particular concept. So we'll also learn about how you can create your own function in Python, then in order to use it, how you can call these functions. And then at the end of this video, you will also be creating a function that's going to work like a very simple basic calculator to perform some kind of addition, multiplication, subtraction, and all that kind of stuff. So let's get started with this video. Now let's understand the concept of function in Python. I'm going to create a text cell, give a heading. Now the whole concept of the functions in Python is very similar to again what we do in mathematics. If you are giving some sort of inputs to a function, now that function can take any kind of formula, right? Now if you're giving some kind of inputs to that formula, let's say you're having f of x is equal to 3x square plus 2x plus 2 something plus 3 something like this. So now if you're going to give the value of x as 2, automatically this x will be taking the value of 2, and whatever is the output of 3 into 2 square plus 2 into 2 plus 3, that will be the output of this function. Now the very similar idea is what we are following in Python also. We create this kind of functions to repeat some kind of block in Python, okay, just like what we did for the for loop or while loop. But over there you are continuously iterating one by one. But now what if you want to use same block of code in this code cell, but then after let's say 2-3 code cell again you want to use that, again after 1-2 code cells you want to use that. So for that you create functions, right? So now how do we create these functions in Python? You use this kind of keyword called def for defining the function. Then you give name to the function. Now let's say that I'm trying to create a function to greet every one of you over here who are watching this video. So def greet, I'm giving this random name that came to my mind, and then you need to give some kind of input arguments to this function. Right now I'm not giving any kind of arguments, and now again this kind of colon is given so that Python understands that yeah, now anything that is given below this kind of colon with this indentation, it's all going to be the part of the function. Let's say that I'm trying to print the value, or not the value but the string called hey astrophiles. I'm assuming most of you over here who are watching this video are astrophiles. So what I'm doing is I'm going to create this kind of function that's going to do this particular thing, okay? Hey astrophiles, I'm just trying to greet every one of you. Now how to call this function? Once you have created a function, how you are going to call them? You are creating a function to greet viewers of this video, right? And without any input arguments or parameters. You can call them as input arguments, input parameters. There are wonderful names given to the same thing over here, okay? Now I'm going to call that function. How to call that function? You call the name of the function like greet, okay? Have this parenthesis and just run this code. You're going to get an output of hey astrophiles. I don't need to write this kind of same thing again and again. Now anytime I want to call this function, it's going to print hey astrophiles for me. Isn't it just interesting? Now I'm just going to go ahead and add one more magic to this function, that I'm going to specifically greet some of you over here, okay? Let's say that one of your name just for example is, let's just not give any kind of random name, let's just take my name, okay? And let's say some of your name is also Rohan. So yeah, if Rohan, if you're watching this particular video, then I'm going to greet you specifically, okay? But yeah, coming back to the concept, what I'm trying to do over here is define a function to greet a person whose name will be given as an input. So now what I'm going to do over here is I'm going to first of all create a very similar kind of function, but this time I'm going to have this kind of a name, okay? So let's say defining a function, give a name, let's say greet person, something like this, and now it takes one input argument that is name, okay? Now this time what I'm going to print out is this. Hey, whatever is the name. Again, because I'm using the f strings, I need to use f over here. Hey, whatever is the name, I hope you are enjoying this session and learning a lot of things in Python. Something like this, right? And now if I'm going to run this code to create this function, now again call that function. Okay? Now how it's going to work, see that. I'm going to call this greet person and give a name of, let's say, Rohan. Okay, so yeah. Hey Rohan, I hope you are enjoying this session and learning a lot of things in Python. Yes, I am. Okay, thank you. But yeah, anyway, moving on to the next part. So yeah, this is what I'm trying to show you, that now I can just call this function with different names. Okay, call this function with different name. Okay. Now I'm going to again call this function person, and let's say that I don't know, this name came up into my mind out of nowhere. Let's use Karan. Okay, I'm lying. He's my best friend. So yeah. Anyway, so hey Karan, I hope you are. It's going to print the same thing, just that wherever now there is a name variable, it's going to replace it. Like this, you are trying to create some bunch of different formulas for function, not actually the formulas, but specific code that will be repeated with some kind of different inputs that you give to a function. So yeah, this is how this kind of functions work in Python. But now that's not all to this kind of things. Okay, now I'm feeling a bit sad that I'm not wishing all of you over here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to call this function for one more time. Call this function to greet everyone. To greet everyone here watching the video. I can simply call this greet person, but instead of just greeting one of you guys, I'm going to greet every one of you. So what I'm going to do is, let's just call this as everyone. Okay. And now I'm going to run this. It says, hey everyone, I hope you are enjoying this session and learning a lot of things in Python. Now this is good, right? So yeah, that's about this thing. But yeah, now moving on to some more advanced concepts of Python that you must know, because these are very essential. You will be using a lot of inbuilt functionalities in Python and different libraries in Python in the upcoming modules. You need to know these things that I'm going to teach you right now. So please pay attention very properly over here. Okay. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to talk about two things, that are keyword arguments and the default arguments, and also the positions of the arguments. Okay. Now this concept is really very important. Default, or I should say, first of all, I'm going to talk about position arguments, and I'm going to talk about keyword arguments, and also about, let's just talk about these things right now so that I'm not confusing you guys with a lot of stuff. So what happens over here is that if you are giving two inputs, okay, you're not giving only one input, you're giving two inputs to the function. For example, one that is the name, and then you can give some kind of a greeting message. Okay, now you cannot just have, I hope you are enjoying this session. You can have some kind of different message also if you want. Okay, so I'm going to give this kind of functionality to my users who is going to use the function that I'm creating in Python, so that they can give any kind of message they want. Okay, this is just some examples that comes into my mind right now. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to again create a function. I'm first of all going to talk about positional arguments. Okay, I'm also deleting the keyword arguments. So if I'm greeting and I'm passing, let's say I'm creating a function called greeting, passing name and message, and then I'm saying that print a name. Okay, I'm giving this f string, print name and then message. Something like this is what I want. Okay, I want to print my name first, and then I want to print some message, or else I could literally play around with these things properly. I can say, hey name, and then some kind of a message, something like this, right? It's up to you how you create your function. So let's say I'm creating it like this, and this time if I'm trying to call this function by placing the input arguments in the same order while building it. So I'm going to call my function, that is greeting. I'm going to give a name. Again, let's say I'm going to just play around with the names. I'm going to play with, let's say, Lavanya. And then I'm writing a message, are you an astrophile? Something like this, right? And now if I run this, it's giving, hey Lavanya, are you an astrophile? This kind of question has been asked, right? And if you can see, this exclamation is also getting printed. So if I don't want that, if I'm just again calling this, okay. So yeah, this time see what's happening. I'm not getting that kind of exclamation mark. Now this time what I've done, I've placed this Lavanya in place of name. In place of message, I've put this. Now what happens if I'm going to shift? Call the function by shifting the positions of the arguments of the function, right? So I'm going to call the same function again, but now change this kind of message with name, right? And then like this. And now if I enter this, hey, are you an astrophile, comma Lavanya? See, it does not make any kind of sense, right? So that's the thing that I'm talking about, the position of the arguments. Whenever you are defining a function, you always look into what kind of way, what is the position of each and every arguments. If name argument is kept first, you always go ahead and give your this kind of name is equal to something. Okay, that is Lavanya. You don't give this kind of message over here. Whatever is the first input argument, that respective input should what go over here. Okay, because now it's thinking, Python is thinking that hey, this is the first argument, so this should go in the place of name. So that's something that you are learning over here with respect to the position arguments. But now what happens if I'm again having the same kind of thing, but I'm specifically saying that this is my name argument and this is my message argument. Okay, now call this function with keyword arguments. So what I am doing over here is I'm giving some kind of argument keyword. Before passing just the arguments, I'm also having its respective keyword that I have used to define that argument. So this is called keyword arguments. Okay, that now even though the position I have changed, but now because I'm giving a specific keyword, now Python understands that this should go for the message argument and this should go for the name argument, and therefore you are getting this as an output. I hope these things are making sense to you. Okay, now one more thing that you can study in functions that is very common is default arguments. That is, while creating this kind of a function, okay, while creating this kind of a function, let's say greeting with default argument, something like this is what I'm defining the name of the function. And now what I'm saying is if someone is not giving any kind of name, or if they are not giving any kind of message, by default what kind of message they should be seeing? Welcome to this program on astronomy visualization, something like this, right? Visualization, something like this is what I want to give them a message, and I want to print hey name and then the message. Okay, now what's going to happen? Always remember, your keyword arguments that you will be giving will always come later on. First the position arguments will come. If you are having mixture of keyword arguments with the position arguments, always remember, whenever you will be calling a function, you first need to pass in the position arguments because the order matters over there, and at the end you can change this kind of keyword arguments order. That's fine at the end of the function. What I'm trying to say over here is that first of all I'm going to call this function without passing message argument and see what happens. So greeting with default arguments, and now I'm giving the name of, let's say, Rohan. I'm coming back to, because I'm not in the mood to think about new name, you can say that. And now if I'm running this, see, it's giving me an error. The reason it's giving me an error is because I haven't run this code, right? It's giving me that this thing is not defined only. So how can you how are you running this? And now if I'm running this, you can say that, hey Rohan, welcome to this program on astronomy visualization, right? It by default took this argument, whatever was written over here, and it gave me over here. Now what would happen if I'm giving my message variable first and then giving my name? Okay, I'm saying message equal to WhatsApp, something like that. Okay. And then now see what's going to happen. In the first position, there should be name. Okay, but in place of that name, you are already giving this message variable, I mean message keyword. Now this keyword is already taking this kind of value. Now in the second position, there should be a message. Now that is already existing over here. That's why you're getting this kind of red line, and obviously you're going to run into an error. Position for arguments follows keyword argument. So always write your position arguments first and then the keyword arguments. Okay. So over here, I could have written this as like, a name, that is Rohan, and then the message. This is fine. Just write explain, right? Even while defining the functions, if you are having this message first and then the name like this, see what happens. It's going to throw an error. Non-default argument follows the default argument, just like in the keyword and the position. If you are not having any kind of default values, you always keep them first. Okay, that's something that you must know while creating your own functions. Okay, now all of these things that you have learned over here is going to be pretty much very useful whenever you will be implementing these ideas in the upcoming modules that you will be learning. Okay, but now one last thing that I want to describe over here is I'm going to create a function that will either add, subtract, multiply, or divide two input numbers. Okay, so I'm going to come up with a very basic calculator with the help of functions. Okay, and I'm going to show you that how you can do all these kind of things. Create a function that will either add, it's not whether, it's either add, subtract, multiply, or divide on any two numbers that has been given as an input. Okay, so let's say I'm creating a function called basic calculator. Okay, and now I'm giving some kind of inputs of two numbers, that is number 1, number 2, and then what kind of operation I want to have. For example, let's just call that as an operation, add, multiply, subtract, or divide, something like that. Okay, I'm trying to demonstrate that if, else if, and else kind of statements. Okay, so now let's say if operation dot, again I'm using this kind of lower functionality, so that if anyone is also giving capital ADD, even that's going to find in order to compare. So if the user input is add, I want to return something. Now this is again a new thing we are learning in functions. It's not always about printing, right? If you want to give something as an output, just like in the mathematical function, if you're giving some input, it's going to give you some kind of specific output. It's going to return some outputs. So you can get something out of this calculator or the function that you are creating by calling a keyword called return. Anything that you write after return will be the output of the function when you call this whole function with some input arguments. Okay, you will understand this in a while. So let's say I want to return. What do I want to return? I want to return n1 plus n2. Whatever is the output of this n1 plus n2 is what I want to return. Now if I run this code and test this, basic calc, giving my first number as 2, second number as 3, and then operation is add, and then run this. See, the output is 5. How did I get this output 5? Because I'm returning this value. I can store this value in a variable now. I can store this in, say, addition, something like this, and then also print this, and I can use this kind of addition somewhere else in the code, right? Addition. So yeah, that's the first thing that we have done. Now the second thing that we are going to do is we are going to say that if, else if operation dot lower is to subtract, okay, then return what? Return n1 minus n2. Just like that, else if operation dot lower is to multiply, then what you do? Return n1. Asterisk symbol is used for multiplication, and then else if operation dot lower is to divide, then you're going to return what? N1 divided by N2, right? Else, if anything else is given as an input apart from add, subtract, multiply or divide, you're going to say that print, I'm going to create my F statement with F string. You can either in your operation input can either take add, multiply, subtract or divide. You gave whatever was the, the operation that has been given by the user. You give this, try again. This kind of message is what I'm trying to print. Okay, and now if I run this code, see how it's working. If this is the condition, then do this. Else if this is condition, then do this. Else if this is the condition, do that. Else if this is the condition, do this. And if it's nothing like that, then do this. That's the proper if and else block that we have created over here. Okay, so now if I run this, it's giving me 5 as an output, right? Now let's say if I want to do some kind of multiplication and I'm storing it in the multiply, something like that, right? Now I'm going to create this kind of basic calc function and give this kind of thing that first number is 3, the second number is 3, and then multiply. Okay, and print the value of multiply also. Print multiply. 3 times 3 is 9. We expect the output of 9, right? You can go ahead and test for all of these things. Okay, what happens if I'm trying some random input and I'm not going to store it? I'm just going to try to see what's the output that we are able to fetch. 3 comma 3 and some random thing. Okay, and then if I run this, it's going to give operation input can either take add, multiply, subtract or divide. You give this, try again, right? So this is the thing that is giving output. I can shift this to capital O, and I can also give some kind of information over here with the help of multiple strings over here. I can say that parameters. I can first of all give the kind of an idea of what this kind of function is doing. This is a really very good way of documenting your functions. Okay, I'm describing what this kind of code is doing. Okay, this function is doing. Creates a basic calculator that takes n1 and n2 in the same order and performs either of addition, subtraction, multiplication, multiply and divide. They can perform either of this, right? And then you can give parameters, and then you can have this kind of parameters that n1 first number, then n2 is your second number. Like this, you can just give all the kind of proper information, and then operation is any of the operations mentioned above for our basic calculator, that is add, subtract, multiply or divide. And then it's going to also return what? It's going to return what is it going to return? It's going to return, let's check what is it returning. Yeah, either the output of the calc, the output of the operation done n1 and n2. So you can also give an example over here if you want, but yeah, that's pretty much about how you can describe a function, so that if someone else is going to use your function, they already know how to give some kind of inputs while calling your own function that you have created, right? So yeah, that's about the functions that you should know. And that also wraps up the basics of Python over here for us that we need for astronomy and space applications. Now, one thing that I want you all to do is you just click on this file and scroll down to this download option, and then click on this download.ipynb file. Don't download the Python script, rather download the Python notebook, because this is the notebook that we have created. So I'll simply click on this, and will automatically start the downloading process, and wherever you are having the downloads folder in your system, you will be getting access of this file over there. So that's the end of the video over here on functions, and we looked into the concepts of what are functions in programming, why do we need one, and how we can create it with the help of Python programming. And once we are able to create a function, how we can call this type of functions. And on top of that, we had also looked into this particular example of how we can create a basic calculator functionality by using Python functions.